What did that teacher get fired for at your school? For passing out drunk in the middle of class. He passed out, student ran to the office to get the principal, and when she came in she couldn't wake him, so she called paramedics. Then she sniffed his coffee mug, and started going through his desk and pulled out a bottle of vodka. Worst part was, his daughter was a student there. 2 teachers went on the 8th grade school trip to an amusement park, and while there, they were seen drinking beer at lunch. It got back to the school and they were canned. We had teachers get drunk on a school ski trip to Italy. It was fun watching a very obviously drunk teacher telling off very obviously drunk teens for drinking, whilst they denied it. So, I got in huge trouble. You see, the previous day the teacher had advised all students that the following day there would be a show and tell of sorts, but the goal was to bring something the presenter was certain no one else had ever seen. I had no clue what I could bring. So I asked my dad, who really appreciated historical things and was excited to show me a drum roll grenade. Now, this was a dude. It had been drilled out and no fuse existed, so the mechanism could not detonate. But it had been at one point, a very real grenade. So the next day in my very small Canadian town, on a typically quiet street, at a mostly calm schoolyard, there were over a dozen service vehicles, a SWAT team no one knew existed, and a hybrid tank/battering ram vehicle thing we're still not sure how the town procured. About 40 minutes before all this, I was being dragged by my shirt collar to the principal's office by my teacher while she held the grenade in the other hand, almost as though she was displaying it and also disgusted by it. She paraded me, and the grenade in front of so many students. Panic ensued. The bomb squad eventually identified the grenade as harmless, my teacher was discharged, I was suspended for 2 days, and my dad went to bat for me. Good times. He was standing by his living room window in an open bathrobe while an elementary school bus took a detour past his house. Compare that to the teacher who got in a fistfight with a 3rd grader in 1988 and still teaches there now. Teacher let a student borrow her phone to call their parents. The student went through her phone and found some nude or revealing photos of her and sent them to friends. The teacher was fired, and I feel bad for her. If the rumors are true, he told an African American student to go back to Africa. Had a high school teacher overhear an overweight girl talking about committing suicide. Instead of getting her help, he told her and the whole class that the rope would break anyway. Teacher was fired that same day. Not fired but suspended for the rest of the year because he made a comment about having a threesome with the music teacher and her dog. The joke was the music teacher had a bad habit of talking about her dog a lot, but the administration didn't find it very funny. Had a math teacher who used to teach at a different school that my brother went to. She was an amazing teacher at that school, but apparently told my brother's class she used to do drugs. When she taught at my school, she would come in late, never teach, just have study halls, and give the students worksheets with no explanations. We're all pretty sure she relapsed, and she was fired halfway through the year. For making one altar boy poke the other altar boy in the testicles with pins while he watched. Not joking. One of the most well-liked teachers from my high school, female, was having an affair with a 17-year-old from our school. He was not popular or good-looking, but she convinced him she loved him and they would do the deed in a car throughout town by the parks. She was married with 2 kids. He wasn't fired, but he was asked to resign after his arrest. Apparently he got coked up and fist-fought a guy at a Disturbed concert. Half of our teachers did drugs and the other half were having sex with students, but no one cared. Only one teacher got fired, and that's because he had a very strong Asian accent and all the kids complained that they couldn't understand him and made fun of him. When in fact he taught the class with the smartest math students and everyone could understand him. He was outstandingly cheerful and always happy and supportive. She flashed her tits at a Metallica concert and someone got a picture of it and started passing copies of the photo around the school. As far as the teacher's reaction, she was neither ashamed or embarrassed about the pictures. She even told all of her classes, one of which I was in, that being we were all juniors or seniors in high school, she was sure we had all seen a set of naked breasts, and seeing hers isn't a big deal to me and shouldn't be to any of you either. After that, she didn't talk about it. As for being fired, I don't know for sure if she got fired or was asked to transfer, but she was no longer teaching at my school the next year. Middle school, she shoplifted over $1,000 worth of stuff, mostly jewelry, from the department store Kohl's. Was caught clear as day on security cameras. It was one of those things where you never would have imagined her doing something like that, but after it happened we really weren't that surprised. High school, student didn't understand the directions to something, and teacher responded by saying, "What, are you on the spectrum or something?" Turns out the student was indeed on the spectrum. Surprisingly, the teacher wasn't fired right away, but he got sent over to teach at the middle school. Not even a year later, same teacher made fun of a student for smelling bad and wearing the same outfit 2 days in a row. Turns out that student was living in a van with his mom and didn't have access to a shower/laundry service every day. Teacher obviously got fired after that. Still blows my mind he wasn't fired the first time. Spanish teacher at my school was involved in the largest psychedelic mushrooms bust in the history of the state of Ohio. Never would have guessed. She slapped a student and got fired and then tried to sue the school claiming she was only fired because the head teacher was racist. For having sex with his 17-year-old student and then marrying her over the summer. Except he didn't get fired or disciplined at all. I had an ecology teacher in my HS, early 80s. He preached in his class against having large families, saying 0 or 2, for you 1 + 1 your spouse, at most was the only sustainable way for the future. Anyhow, he ended up divorcing his wife a few years later, marrying a girl in our class and having 6 kids. The end. Newspaper article said they found girls' knickers in his school bag/briefcase. He nicked them from the sports changing rooms. This was at least 10+ years after I left. He was the technology teacher, and my form tutor for 4 years, during secondary school. I was rather shocked. Pretending to shoot kids with a fake gun during a lockdown drill. I didn't learn about this until a year later, but apparently, some coach/teacher stepped on my friend's glasses and just didn't care. Later in the day, my friend's mom called him and complained to him and he just goes, "Aight," and hangs up. And for clarification, my friend wasn't being a bad student or anything. He's one of the nicest guys I know, so the glasses being stepped on wasn't a punishment, it just somehow happened, most likely by accident. The teacher just didn't care. Our history teacher slept with like 3 different girls. Punching a kid and then getting caught smoking weed in the boiler room. Classic. Punching a kid. He spent his first lesson with us telling us, for about 15 minutes, about how good he was at karate. Math teach would confiscate illegal calculators, programmable, graphing, basically anything that cost more than $5, from students saying, "Come see me at the end of the term and you can have them back." If they didn't come get them, he would fricking sell them on Craigslist or whatever equivalent there was at the time. First, he wasn't even allowed to confiscate them at all, and the school found out when eventually someone who bought from found a whole bunch of information about the previous owner somehow, and assuming, rightly, it was stolen, followed up. He molested middle school girls. It was his trial that awakened lawmakers to change the statute of limitations laws in Michigan and helped put Larry Nassar away for so long. For being a pedophile. There was this girl in the year above, she was doing GCSE music and he was the head of music. At first he just gave her one-on-one tutoring, then he sent her emails every day through her school email. Then he asked for her phone number, she said no. He continued to email her and got mad and violent when she didn't reply. He sent her £40 on her birthday to her home address, which she never told him he got it from the school. He left after she left secondary and she told police when she was away from him. He's been banned from teaching for 3 years but no one's gonna hire him now, his life's over. Whole school knows about it, graffiti with, "Mr. is a pedo," all over the walls and everything. He didn't get fired. I was early to school one morning, 8th grade, and moseyed into his classroom. He was my health teacher and I was just looking for some company. It was just him and I in his room. He casually got up and closed his classroom door. Once the door shut he smirked and started asking me personal questions. He then started to ask if I had masturbated and what I thought while doing it. I turned so red and uncomfortable and he took it as my being coy, but I was mortified and felt so wrong. I quickly got my bag together and left immediately. I never told anyone. He turned up to school hungover 2 days a week and stoned the other 3. The students all loved him but he didn't teach shit. My art teacher got busted with a nude painting he had done of a girl in my class. She was 18 but he still got fired. Rumor mill was that he was looking at porn on his computer while he had a free period. Principal came in to talk to him about something and either he felt like the principal was cool and would dig the porn he was looking at, or maybe he was caught surprise and the principal saw it on his screen. Pretty sure his wife divorced him, too. Major porn addiction. Told a student to shove a pen up his asshole. Having sex with a male prostitute in a trucker's bathroom off the interstate. He was caught by a former student who was a cop. A middle school teacher was fired for throwing a desk at me. 30 years later I'll readily admit I was being a little shit, but not enough to have a desk thrown at me. She replaced all the school lunches with only cheese sandwiches, and things got so progressively worse from there that my school had a sit-in. People got arrested, the school had to hire a bunch of cops/SWAT to surround the building in case of a riot, and then everyone got sent home early. She lasted only a year at the school for causing so much chaos. Her famous line was, "You get what you give," and at the sit-in someone retorted, "You get what you give," but I don't remember giving anyone a cheese sandwich. Best thing that came out of that whole shit show was this iconic line. My school had 2 instances. A male teacher was caught having sexual relations with his 7th grade student. Our vice principal, known for being an asshole to many students, was given publicity after driving one girl to suicide and being the #1 reason on her suicide note. Many students admitted to their own experiences with harassment from him, and he finally got fired. We had this English and history teacher who was also a volleyball coach, and he was the coolest, best dude ever. He taught human compassion in his classes. He genuinely believed that having empathy and a care for other human beings was super important. He was that teacher that you could just go to for a hug or to talk about your day, and he would listen with no judgment. He loved his job, and his wife also worked at the school as a librarian, and she was also fantastic. The principal decided he was being too close with the students because he was open to hugs, one-on-one conversations with students, etc., but he was just being a wholesome guy. Everyone loved him. Obviously, this one PE teacher liked to come to work drunk. And once, there was this one bratty pupil who was getting on his nerves, so he slapped him, which was nothing out of character and also nothing unusual. Strangely enough, everyone I knew who ever was told by him that they can pick either get cuffed/slapped or get written down picked the cuff option. The problem was that this man could slap with the force of a moving train, and also, the kid was standing on the edge of stairs. Yup. The kid fell down, broke his arm, and the teacher got fired. He was a teacher that was also one of the guidance counselors that took a very special interest in girl students who had sexual-related question or issues and would want to know every little detail he could get instead of passing those types of matters on to a female colleague. Turns out this had gone on for a few years before someone had mentioned one of the "just between us" conversations, and it was exposed the guy just wanted to hear about the sex lives of students in detail. My Spanish 1 teacher quit to move to Puerto Rico as soon as school ended. I saw her the next year at my town's street fair. She was an awful teacher, had high school and middle school classes, and wore the tightest, lowest V-neck shirts she could find. Rumors immediately started flying that she got fired for flirting with the middle school boys, and it only became more believable when we all realized she hadn't moved. This was during Zoom, so classes were totally online during this. Teacher was caught wonking it while his camera was on, kid recorded it and posted it to YouTube. Dude's teaching career was over pretty quick after that. One was fired for dating a student. Rumor was, he got her pregnant. She was allowed to graduate, but was not allowed to enter the school pregnant. Another was fired because he hit a student in the hands with the book that holds score records for the class. Sorry, I don't know how this book is called in English. His wife was having an affair with a state trooper. She wanted him gone, so she sent him to the store to pick up some things during a party. Her boyfriend pulled him over. He blew well under the legal limit, but the school board caved to parents yelling about drunk teachers. Dude is a great guy and one of the teachers that wasn't drunk or high, or fricking around, or selling drugs, or selling grades. You get the picture. He is doing well now and I see him every week or so. I shake my head at him and he flips me off, then we usually hug. Like I said, great guy. She beat students with a stick in 1994. To be fair, a student had also put a lighter in front of her face and said, "Let's burn the witch," so I only half blame her. Our librarian got fired for sleeping with a football player. She started crying hysterically, took off her shoe and threw it at a student. All while screaming at us that we were the reason for her divorce. My teacher would have us watch good old classic movies like Jaws and Back to the Future in chemistry. Unfortunately, he didn't spend enough time teaching us the material for our midterms. They had to let him go. Auto mechanic instructor at certain community college. Can't remember which quarter was it, pretty sure it was like spring semester, it was Dec Jan. Beside randomly showing up 15 to 30 minutes late, he'd get all smiley and ignoring the stare of daggers from some of us and would flip out if one or few of us ever show up late. Anyway, at some point, he boasted and told us that he would beat one of us up. Etc., etc., about drugs/alcohol, etc., legit have no idea what prompted this. Me and my ASL interpreter was pretty shocked by this statement. Eventually, near the end of semester, I left an scalding review/feedback on his behavior, how he treated us and all of that. Me and others agreed on this and decides to do him some karma favor. Next semester, it's like he doesn't exist anymore. Every single thing, if related to him or has his name on it, is completely gone. Same familiar instructor from different course decide to cover the same course me and others are in. We never had problems after that. We had a younger long-term substitute teacher while I was in high school, probably 4 to 5 years older than most of the students. Someone thought it would be funny to invite him to a student party and he actually shows up. Dude got shit-faced and tried to leave with a student in his car but got pulled over for drunk driving and got arrested. The guy showed up on Monday to teach like nothing happened and he was promptly told to leave. School had to go on damage control after that to make sure nothing else happened at this party. In 1993 she announced to no one in particular how she wished schools were still segregated. This was shortly after showing us, the gods must be crazy, to educate us on African culture. Her kid hid his drugs in her classroom closet. Kid was always a troublemaker and got expelled, and of course she was fired all hush-hush, but everyone knew what was really going on. She knew he was hiding stuff in there, and when it was found apparently she started crying. Really sad actually. Doctoring a student's work so that it fulfilled the criteria of the examination it was submitted for. This was discovered when the piece of art was returned to the student and the alteration noticed, resulting in the student contacting the exam board directly. In the end, their award was withdrawn and they were required to resubmit. I like to think that two people learned important lessons that day. Thank you for watching.